Hi, I'm Jason from CropKing, and today we're going to assemble the 4-bucket Bato system. When you get your system in, make sure that you check your packing list and then confirm that everything on the packing list is part of your package. We'll begin by assembling the top assembly. You're going to begin with using 4 pieces of the perforated steel, 4 bolts, 4 hex nuts, and 8 washers. Each one of these pieces can be measured with a tape measure, or you can count the holes. Each hole is 1 inch. So we will be referring at some points during the video to different holes. That would also be the equivalent in inches. For instance, if we're talking about hole number 4, that would be 4 inches from the end of the piece of tubing. So for step number 1, we're gonna lay 2 pieces of our box tubing out and then lay a piece across perpendicularly. And what we want to do here is align hole number 1 of the top piece with hole number 1 of the bottom piece. We'll take a bolt and a washer. We're gonna come down from the top and through the bottom, put a washer on the bottom, and then a nut just to hand tight. So when doing these assemblies, it's best just to put things to hand tight to begin with to make sure everything aligns properly. The next step is to do the same assembly, but this time on the front side. We'll line up hole number 1 here with hole number 1 here, and we'll drop the bolt down through. Once secure to hand tight, repeat again on the other side. After bolting together the 4 pieces of steel, you're then going to take 8 end caps. And the way to properly install these is there will be a notched portion of the cap. You want the notched portion to line up with the orientation of your bolts. So in this case, our bolt is vertical, which means we want our notches to be vertical. Push the cap into the opening, and then use either a mallet or a dead blow hammer to secure them in place. You can now go around and do that to each opening around your initial frame assembly. You're now ready to tighten up your corners. You can now use your 1/2-inch ratchet and 1/2-inch wrench to tighten up your bolts. Ideally, using a speed square or some other type of architectural square would be best to make sure that your angles are at 90 degrees. However, if you want to eyeball it and get it as close as you can, these do flex a little bit, so you should be able to move them a little bit if you do find that you're not in square. For the next step, we're going to attach the legs. You know you have a leg because you're going to have a threaded piece at the bottom of the leg. The foot itself has a piece of all thread attached to it. Basically, you want to take the threading and put it into the bottom of the leg and screw the foot all the way down until it bottoms out in the leg. These are adjustable feet, so if you find that your table is out of balance, you can adjust one up or down to make the fit perfect and re-level your table. Once all 4 feet have been attached to the legs, you can then attach the leg directly to the base. So you'll begin with a single bolt with a washer. When aligning your leg with your base, you want to make sure that hole number 1 on the leg is aligned with hole number 2 on the top cross member. You'll then push the bolt through the top cross member, through the leg, and then put a nut and washer on the back side. You'll further reinforce the leg by taking a second bolt, and this time you're going to put the bolt through hole number 2 on the front of the table and hole number 2 of the leg. Again, pushing the bolt all the way through and then using a washer and nut on the back. You can then repeat this procedure for all 4 legs. Once your legs are installed, you can then take your safety caps and place them at the correct orientation. At this point, it's safe to go ahead and secure the legs with your ratchet and your wrench. At this point, we're going to need to do a little bit of counting to make sure that we're using the appropriate holes. So we're going to use the first bolt hole that has a bolt in it as hole number 1. We're then going to count over 6 total holes, and that's going to be the area where we're going to attach our first cross member. Count with me here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we've marked ours with a Sharpie. Suggest that maybe you do the same. That way you don't have to keep going back and counting every time. And then you would do the same back here, starting with the bolt as number 1. Count out to number 6 to make sure that these align. Once you have the cross member in place, you can take a bolt with a washer. You're going to drop down from the top through the 6th hole and then secure the bottom with a washer and a hex nut. You'll then repeat on the back side. Step 2 for the support assembly is to put in your second piece of cross member. So again, you're going to count over 6 holes. using the first bolt position, that's hole number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, we've marked to make this easier. And again, you'll just put the cross member at the 6th hole and then secure with a bolt from the top. Once your 2 pieces of cross member are in place, you can follow the exact same procedure on the far side for the last 2 pieces of support. The final step for the support assembly is to go ahead and tighten up the bolts. The final thing you'll want to do is to use your dead blow hammer and make sure that you secure the rest of your end caps in place before proceeding to the plumbing section. We're now ready to put together some of our plumbing, and we're going to begin with the feed detail. So in this case, we're going to need to do some cutting. For the spaghetti tubing and the small black tubing, you want to make sure to cut 8 of those and then set those aside. So the first piece you want to find is the black, smaller piece of tubing. You're going to measure these out to 3 inches and make your cut. The next piece you're going to need is the white spaghetti tube. These you're going to measure out to 20 inches and then cut. We're now ready to cut pieces of our 1/2 inch feed tube. So you're going to want to cut 8 3-inch pieces. So take your ruler, measure out 3 inches, and cut 8 segments, which are going to tie together your greenback valve and your T's. Now you're ready to do your feed detail. We're now ready to start to piece together the larger piece of the feed detail. So you want to start with your greenback valve. These greenback valves have open and closed settings. So anytime you see the greenback valve in line with the tubing, it's open. If you want to shut it, turn it 90 degrees so it becomes perpendicular to the line. This is very important to do before you do anything else, because if you leave this open and turn on your pump, water will come out of the back of the greenback valve. Once you have your greenback valve, you're going to take the 3-inch pieces that you cut and you're going to start adding these on. So put the first piece onto the greenback valve. You'll then take one of these T's and add the T to the open end of the 3-inch piece. Ideally, you want to push it so tight that it comes all the way to the last barb. You'll then take another piece of 3-inch, push it in place, and then another T. You'll continue this process using 3-inch pieces and T's until you get to the end of the line. We're now ready to put together our drip emitter assembly. So we're going to take our piece of 20-inch spaghetti tube and our Veriflow valve, and we're going to push the 2 pieces together, again ensuring the tube comes all the way up over the barb and comes to rest at the Veriflow valve. These can be a little bit tight. Heat can help a lot with this, so either a heat gun or even something as simple as a hair dryer might be enough to warm this just enough to give it some more flexibility to make it easier to get over the barb. Once the piece of spaghetti tubing is in place, then you can take the 3-inch piece of black tubing and apply it to the other side of the barb. Again, pushing it all the way on. Now your assembly is nearly complete. You will take the drip stake and insert the drip stake into the open end of the white spaghetti tube. Again, pushing the 2 together so that they meet at the stake. You'll now take the piece of black tubing and you're going to put that onto the barb here of the T that we created when we made our original assembly. Once you have that piece in place, your emitter assembly is ready to go. You're going to repeat that for the remaining barbs to complete your feed assembly. We're now ready to install our pump. So locate your pump box and remove the pump from the box. Inside you'll find a whole variety of different barbs. We're going to use the one that fits inside of a 1/2-inch drain line. We're going to go back to our packet now that has the barbs. Open this up and you're going to find the smallest of the 3. This is going to be the 1/2-inch barb. We'll now take one of the grommets and put it over top of the threading. We'll now take the male threading and thread it into the female end of the pump to set the barb in place. Once the barb is in place, you're now ready to attach your feed assembly. You'll do that by taking the remaining piece of your 1/2-inch black tubing. That piece of 1/2-inch tubing is going to attach to the last set of barbs on your last T for your feed assembly. Push those 2 pieces together. You'll now go to the far end of the 1/2-inch tubing and you want to take your snap grip ring and place it over top of your tubing. The tubing will now go down over top of the barb on top of the pump. Push it so the 2 pieces fit perfectly together. You'll then take your snap clip ring, push it all the way to the bottom and push it until it clips in place. You'll hear it snap as it secures. And your feed assembly is now complete. We're now ready to put together our drain detail. In this case, we're going to be using PVC but also silicone glue. For sake of simplicity, we will not actually be gluing anything today, but we will show you where to glue on your unit. So we want to begin with one of these pieces of drain channel and an end cap. So for you, you're going to want to put silicone glue on the inside of the drain cap, and then silicone glue along the inside or the outside of the drain channel, and then secure that end cap in place like so. You can do that on both pieces at the same time, applying your silicone glue and then your end cap. Once you have those put together, then you can take one of these 90-degree elbows, again, lining the inside with silicone glue, the outside of the drain channel with silicone glue. You want one of these elbows to point in, and then you're going to repeat the process again on the other side, but this one you want to also point in. In other words, you want the two pieces or the two elbows to point towards one another so that they are mirroring one another. Next, you're going to take these two shorter pieces of PVC, silicone glue on the inside, and we're just going to push these together lightly since we're not gluing today. But you're going to insert this piece into the elbow, and again replicating the exact on the other side. Next, we'll take our T and we're going to place silicone on the inside of the T here and on the inside of the T here. We'll put silicone on the outside of the two pieces of PVC that we just inserted into our 90-degree elbows. And we want our T to point downward. So as we install this, we want to be sure that we have a downward orientation of our T. Once that's in place, you can then take your shortest piece of PVC, silicone glue on the inside of the bottom of the T, insert those two pieces together. Another 90-degree, this time you're going to put silicone glue on the inside here and on the bottom of this here, and you're going to want your 90-degree elbow to point in or towards the end caps of your two channels. Again, we're just pushing these together lightly to hold them in place. Next, you're going to take your longest piece of PVC, silicone glue to the outside of one end, silicone glue to the inside of the 90-degree elbow that you put in place at the bottom of the T. Slide the two pieces together. The final step is going to be to take your last 90-degree elbow, silicone glue on the inside, silicone glue on the outside of the longest piece of PVC, and fit those two pieces together. So your final drain assembly should look something like this. We're now ready to install our drain assembly on our stand. So what you're going to want to do is make sure that your drain channels are on the top side of the stand, and then the elbow that drains down into your holding tank is below. You then want to count in a certain number of holes to put on your clamps. It's going to vary a little bit depending on how tightly your pieces of PVC have fit into your elbows. So it might be different for each assembly. For us, it ended up at the 9th hole. So we counted in 9 holes, we put our bracket. We're then going to take one of our bolts and washers, drop it from the top through the bracket, put a washer and a nut on the bottom. We'll then repeat that for all 4 of the brackets. We're now ready to put in our feed tube assembly. So what we want to do is take the end with the greenback valve. You're going to snake this between your drain manifold and the first piece of your support system. And you're going to feed this up between those two pieces. You'll take your greenback valve and you want to center it in the middle of this first support, and then take a zip tie up through one hole and down through another and zip tie that greenback valve in place. Ideally, you want the greenback valve to hang a little bit heavy over the edge of your support structure. You can then use a zip tie in each location of each cross member as you go down the line, securing the feed tube in place. You'll repeat that step for all 4 remaining cross members. Our next step is to install the Bato elbows. So this is your Bato bucket. You'll notice at the bottom of the Bato bucket there is an opening that's been cut, and then there's also a post here. So those are going to be important in just one moment. You want to take 2 pieces of Bato elbow. It really doesn't matter which 2 pieces you grab, they will fit together regardless. You want to take the male end of one of these elbows and the female end of the other elbow, and then you're going to push them together until you hear them snap together. Once you hear those snap together, you're ready to install this into the actual Bato bucket itself. So the most efficient way to do this is to place the female end of your newly assembled elbow over top of the post at the bottom of the bucket, and then put the male part of the elbow into the hole at the bottom of the bucket. So they'll fit together, and the male end should go down into the hole, the female end should fit over the post, and that's the completed assembly of the Bato bucket elbow. You're gonna complete that for the remaining 3 buckets. When you're ready to place your Bato buckets onto your unit, you want to use this hole as a guide. So this hole here is going to line up with the piece of drain channel. So you want to make sure that this piece of the hole goes into the drain channel, like so, and make sure the bucket is sitting on 2 pieces of cross member for support. We'll do that for all 4 buckets, ensuring that the opening aligns with the drain channel on each side. You can now add perlite. So to properly add perlite, you want to first hydrate the perlite. So take your bag of perlite, create a small opening in the top, fill that with water. You can either do that with a pitcher, with a hose, or with a faucet at your sink. You want to let that bag hydrate well. It's going to take a lot of water to fill that perlite. Once you feel the bag is full, you can poke 2 small holes in the bottom with a pencil, ensuring perlite isn't rushing out, but only water. As the water rushes out, the perlite is being hydrated. So once the hydrated perlite has had a chance to soak up as much water as possible, you're then going to fill your Bato bucket up to just at or slightly below the line at the top of the Bato bucket. This also acts as a tray to hold your Bato bucket lid covers, so they will sit gently on top of those. Once filled with perlite and you've got your Bato bucket covers in place, you can then install your drip emitters, and you want to put 2 into each Bato bucket. Spaghetti tube is actually highly flexible, so if you find that they're being a bit unruly or they're not lining up the way you hoped, they will spin and twist with just a light amount of pressure. So don't be afraid to turn and twist your tubing if you feel that it's not aligning properly. Sometimes during assembly we put them together in one straight line, but they can be manipulated so that they go either left or right. We've now finished assembly of a 4-bucket Bato system. In this case, this is ready to go into a greenhouse and use. However, there are 2 additional add-ons that come at cost that we recommend that you add to your system to enhance its adaptability. One is a 30-gallon reservoir, which we'll show you here in just a moment. And the second is an optional light rack that you can hang artificial light from if you do choose to grow indoors. You're now looking at the 4-bucket system with the optional reservoir. You'll see that it is equipped to handle your pump and the return of your water through your drain line. We've now completed our 4 Bato bucket system. In addition, we have the add-on light rack and reservoir, which can be added to your order for an additional charge. We thank you so much for purchasing from CropKing. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to give us a call, email. We love it when you share what you've built on social media with us. Thank you again for your purchase, and good luck.